Ain't nobody gonna turn their phone sideways. This ad was made to be seen as a vertical. But more importantly, the 1 to 1.33 dimension vertical that appears on your profile, not the square and a quarter that maximizes visual space in your social media feed. So when you click on it, it does not expand into a UHD 16:9. It stays in the exact same dimensions no matter how you find it. And that deliberate choice is a lead indicator for me to check out the design. Because the person who made it, in this case a living legend, really cares about design and doesn't want that to be compromised by the multiple formats of social media. And everything's moving here, so I'll screenshot a couple areas I like on each of the scenarios and then check it out with overlapping squares, the armature of the 1.33 to find thirds, the golden section of the 1.33, and I'm just trying to see if any of these have consistency throughout the whole body of work. This team, being some of the best visual designers in the world in the fashion industry, if not the best, commonly use these systems, or what I think is going on in this case is they're simply falling back on their intuitive ability and classical training to create solid fundamental design across a body of work that does not adhere to one specific grid pattern, which makes sense at that level of experience. Who cares? Nobody. Nobody cares. The client knows what they're capable of, and that's just consistent, great work. For example, let's ignore the geometry for a second and just look at the power of this line. With symmetry like that, who needs math? Now everything's moving here, but I'm just looking for definitive statements. What's the dominant direction? Where's it going to? Where is it coming from? And how does that relate to the whole? And this is just one simple technique out of dozens like it that can lay the foundation for what system you want to use in terms of math and geometry, or just use it by itself. Complexity versus simplicity. Both are valid, but what's important in a body of work is that you make a choice and stick with it. So if we're laying the groundwork with some simple linear games, let's look at curves. Or in this case, repeating curves. A little sloppy because I'm freehanding in Photoshop, but you get the idea. I've already made a video about these kind of techniques and their origins in the early days of fashion. We're talking New York, early 1900s, 1920, 1930, based on the movements in the fine arts that were still popular at the time: Bauhaus, Constructivism, Futurism, Cubism. But it was also in the commercial world as well. Think illustration for advertising, dominant diagonal, repeat, connecting, connecting, another dominant diagonal, repeat, connecting. Same game. And right around the same time, here's Picasso and Cubism. For me, there's no difference between commercial art or illustration and the fine arts. It's all the same skill set. Can we go back further than that? Well, of course we can. This one should be easily recognizable. It's during the period of Impressionism, but he's expanding the boundaries of that. I think he's even using intersecting lines. So what is the origin of this connecting line technique? If we skip a couple centuries and end up in Baroque, things get way more fundamental in terms of geometry and therefore mechanical, and you can clearly see this is coming from golden section geometry. In this case, the whirling square. Okay, and enough with the art history. What's new is always old. And none of that was a part of what first caught my eye when I saw this piece, but it is along those lines just in terms of influence. First thing I thought when I saw it was, oh, this is an homage to Richard Avedon's large format white background portraits from the 80s. I know he used to shoot with an old deered off 8x10. Must have been a sentimental thing because it's from the 20s and 30s, and all the pros in the 80s were already using L frames and monorails. But that's the look, and it's clearly defined by this full frame template, and it's only a template because I think this was shot on an area of red, and that was superimposed on top. And then it's just a matter of turning it into a sequential, which Avedon also did. Pretty famous series, late 60s, early 70s. But what's important here as a creative is that you take your influences and you expand on them. And in this case, it's just a matter of turning everything sideways to accommodate the widely popular format of social media. And that large format full-frame template was cropped out in the top and the bottom, otherwise it would be too long at a 1.6 rather than a 1.33, but yeah, I think Avedon would have liked it.